Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone. Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
However, they did show some life. They showed some promise moving forward, I think. Looks like they found a quarterback. We'll discuss all of that. We'll also talk about the fact that that performance last night, is it drastic improvement or just improvement? You play like that again, who do you beat on this schedule? That's coming up. Matter of fact, that's coming up in our first segment, which is brought to you by Phoenix Conversions. Folks, whether you are looking to soup up and deck out your personal truck or outfit an entire fleet of your work vehicles, turn to Phoenix Conversions. When it has to be the best, trust the best in East Tennessee since 1987. PhoenixConversions.com to learn more. All right, want to welcome in panel number one. We got Bob Hodge right here, VFL Will Overstreet right there, Jimmy Himes beside him, and David Oven down there beside Jimmy. All right, gentlemen, Brian Maurer looked better than I expected. Then Georgia shut him down in the second half. UT took a 14-0 lead just 3 seconds into the second quarter and then lost 33-0 over the last 3 quarters. Was it drastic improvement? Was it improvement? How do you characterize last night? Because I think at halftime I would have been leaning toward drastic.
Yep.
After halftime I was more like, yeah, they look pretty good for a quarter and a half. So where are you on this? Look, to me, I'm not a big moral victory guy, but when your program is what it is right now, baby steps. I thought it was baby steps. What did you guys think?
I thought it was improvement, not drastic. You had a chance if Brent Smagley hits a field goal, it could be 20-17 with a minute left, and that could have been your halftime score. Instead, he misses and Georgia scores. I thought for 29 minutes, Tennessee played pretty well. John, I thought they showed some life on offense. I thought Maurer did some good things. And so because of that, because the better play at quarterback, I'm going to say there was some improvement. Still a long way to go.
Very much. Gentlemen, who else?
Yeah, improvement. The first half showed you the ability to compete in a game like this with a much better team, but you continue to see weaknesses and things that aren't getting better. Pass rush, where? None. I mean, and so there are areas that are big gaping holes that are not getting better, are not being improved. And so where you see some traction from individual players getting better, you're not seeing as a unit things getting better, very much so.
Okay.
I'm going to go with improvement, incremental improvement. And I even thought there were times when a unit played better and then it kind of reverted back to its old ways again. I thought the offensive line continues, I think, to get a little bit better. I think that Maurer looked better at quarterback. I thought your receivers looked pretty dadgum good because they were getting the ball and able to do something with it. But to Will's point, your defensive line has shown nothing. I don't think you go back to Georgia State. Yeah. Where's it gotten better? So I'm going to say incremental improvement in some places.
And then you took Aubrey Solomon out of the mix pretty early last night on the defensive line. Offensive line, you still didn't have a great running game. I mean, you ran for 2.4 yards per carry yesterday. They're arguably their best player on defense, their nose tackle, went out on the second snap on defense, and you still couldn't run on them. Run defense still allowed 5.8 yards per carry. Pass rush, non-existent. From 24 of 29 for 9.9 yards per attempt, and a lot of that, granted, some of the secondary coverage wasn't perfect. But when you're asking them to cover for 7 and 8 seconds, no one's going to be perfect for that long if you're not getting to it.
I thought the DBs, you couldn't really grade them because of what you're talking about.
If you don't get a pass rush, it's very hard on the DBs to just run around and stay on them. David, what's your thoughts on all this? Did you take it as improvement, big improvement?
Yeah, I mean, we saw flashes. I think that this is sort of the story of Tennessee from much of the Jeremy Pruitt era. As you can see flashes, but they just don't seem like they have the depth or the capability to sustain it. And you guys talked about being rough on the lines and allowing Jake Fromm to do that. There was a completion in the third quarter, fourth quarter late that Jake Fromm had, and he said after the game it was his 5th progression. First of all, Tennessee, I don't know that they've had a quarterback in a long time that they can get to their 5th progression or a line that can allow that to happen, and Georgia has both, and I think it showed the gap between those teams. Tennessee can hang with some teams for a while. How many teams can they do it for 60 minutes? I mean, that's what we've kind of seen over the last 17 games of the Jeremy Pruitt era.
All right, so you saw between a quarter and a half of a better football team. And last night they were going against an absolute juggernaut, one of the top 3 teams in the country. So take that into consideration when you look at the final score. However, who does that performance last night beat on the remaining? I mean, Alabama, take them out. You know, that'd be the upset of all upsets. Would that performance yesterday beat everyone on the schedule? Would it keep you in games with everybody on the schedule?
I'm gonna say it very well may keep you in games they're on schedule. Now I think you can throw Missouri out of there too. If you don't
Depends
get more
on Kelly Bryant. It sounds like his injury isn't too bad, but yeah.
If you've got him and Tennessee has no better pass rush, and I don't see how you hang with
You're right. I should
Missouri's
have mentioned
offense.
that. Yep.
But Mississippi State, South Carolina, I mean, you're talking about mediocre teams, whereas you said they're not the juggernaut Georgia is. So that's the reason I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I think that's the reason next week is so huge, you know. So I'm going to say take Missouri out of it, take Alabama out of it. That performance keeps you around with, I think, most of those other teams.
I'd say it's UAB and Vanderbilt. That's who it keeps you in there with. That's who allows you to beat. I'm not ready to go the distance because if you can't stop the run and you can't rush the passer, eventually in the third and fourth quarter, that other team's got you. You can stay close, but eventually a 2-yard run becomes a 7-yard run, and they're just going to hold the ball and grind you down. And so unless you've blown them away in the first half where they're having to catch up, you're not going to be able to win that game.
And later in this show, I'm going to show some stats about how depth is. When you look at Tennessee first half versus Tennessee second half versus FBS foes, the run yardage on offense and defense flips. I mean, you just wear out. You don't have the bodies to hold up. All right, which angle? Does it keep does this keep you in the games with everybody except Missouri and Alabama, or is it really just okay? UAB and Vandy you feel comfortable about?
I'm more in Bob's camp because I don't think some of the teams on the schedule can throw the football like Georgia or run the football like Georgia, and so I think that Tennessee, if it plays at that level, will have a chance to beat anybody else not named Alabama or Missouri because. I did see some – now, that also is predicated on Maurer continuing to show some improvement, which I think he will. I thought he made a big jump from Florida, open date, to then the game against Georgia. But I think it was again, I go to more 29 minutes instead of a quarter and a half. I thought for 29 minutes they went pretty much toe-to-toe with Georgia. So I'm going to say that's good enough against anybody except Alabama, Missouri.
Yeah, that's the tough part is I think you're right. I think those first 29 minutes are you beat almost everybody except those teams. But like Will was saying, the second half, I think because of all the juice and all the great moments of the first half, it really did distract from how bad the second half was. And I think that put some shine on that. But that second half team yesterday that we saw, I mean, you can't hide from 33-0 over the last, quarter and a half. And that doesn't beat anybody except UAB, and I'm not even sure Vanderbilt.
My concern would be Maurer looked really good. He did take a huge leap from Florida. I mean, I'll say he threw the one interception late after he'd kind of been banged up a little bit, threw the interception, bad decision. But the most impressive thing for me in that first half when he's whipping it all over the field, no picks. Because against Florida, he was a pick waiting to happen. The problem is, and I wonder, the old wait till they get a book on you thing. Second half, Georgia seemed to have all the answers. Now, Georgia's got a terrific team. Maybe other teams won't have the answers, but I just wonder if there was anything Tennessee was doing that caught Georgia off guard, which aided them in looking good in that first half. For example, that first touchdown pass on the double move where they got the veteran Georgia safety to bite, I just wondered, Jim Chaney has gone against this guy in practice. Did he know, he's going to bite on this, let's run a double move at him? Because that was awfully early in the game. I just wonder if it looked better as a product of some schematic things that Georgia had an answer for in the second half. Don't know yet. I'm not downplaying Maurer's performance. It was good, but that's a question I have. Let me change subject very quickly. There's a story out there. I didn't see it. Will Friend apparently got into it with multiple players or one player on the sideline. Somebody knows what's the story we're hearing? And
I
right
don't
now
know
it's pretty
for
much
sure.
just the fog of war, isn't it? Nobody knows it's a true story at this point. What have you heard?
I heard he got into it with at least one player, and I heard that Juwan Jennings was a peacemaker. And I didn't
Wow.
see any of this. It was happening underneath where we were, David. I don't know if you could see it or not. I didn't see it. I got text messages about it, and from people that I trust. Friend got into it with a player, and Jennings was among the players that was trying to break it up.
A lineman?
Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I think there's still, it's early. I'm trying to talk to people. The details are a little bit fuzzy, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a major deal. I think it's one of those things where it's just like the game happens, and we've seen these things before, but when it's right in front of fans and tons of people see it, people are going to be talking about it. It is.
Will, let's watch our language here. But it's possible that player just got tired of the coach criticizing him in a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Maybe.
I mean, listen, you see it in the pros a lot more, but it definitely happens when a guy is talking to you and you're doing everything you can. Eventually, there's a line that a coach can cross. I mean, coach crossed the line with me, but it just happened in practice, right? So it can happen, and you can lose your temper and go at somebody, and those things happen. Usually, those get resolved, but it also can signal, especially on a team that's not playing well and that's getting beat. It can also be, does this carry over and start becoming more of an issue games down the road? So I look at it as more, is this the canary in the coal mine kind of thing that we're going to see? Are there more issues that are going to pop up like this? Does that cause the team to split? But it can just be a one-off. You can have great teams that have this as well.
Okay.
So you can't take it all the way just yet.
Maybe we get that canary to talk.
All right, very good, you media. All right, we're going to talk a lot more about Brian Maurer today, so that's coming up in the next segment as well. Plus, was Philip Fulmer wise to give out the vote of confidence to Jeremy Pruitt this early in the season? Come on back on the Sports Source.
Hey, when you're away from home, catch us on Facebook Live, our YouTube channel, or on SportsSource.tv.
Let's do it.
This is the Sports Source.